Probably not enough who commented on what you said actually watched the clip, even the full clip.
Right. Including my man Reg, who happens to be Austin's agent. We talked, this is my guy. I mean, I've known him for 20 years. And he said, Rich, I didn't watch the show. So, okay. So we talked about it. And I'm like, look, Reg, you my man. And I want Austin to know, this is not about Austin Reaves because, one, love the player, love the person. And two, I actually need him to help me with my golf game. So I'm not trying to mess up anything with AR.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Rich Paul talked big about trading Austin Reaves for Jaren Jackson Jr., called it an unemotional decision, said Austin deserves to get paid somewhere else. Then Austin Reeves' agent confronted him at halftime. Now suddenly Rich Paul is backtracking hard, claiming he's known the agent for 20 years and just wants Austin to help with his golf game. The damage control is pathetic. Do you believe Rich Paul's backtrack, or is this just LeBron's playbook in action? Comment your honest take.
If I was the Lakers, I would probably be targeting the Memphis Grizzlies as a trade partner
For
Jaren Jackson.
Yeah, that'd be a great fit.
I would.
For whom?
Well, that's the thing, because you got to figure out the package. There's a world where you can do what's best for your team and do what's best for Austin.
Rich Paul went on his podcast and publicly suggested the Lakers should trade Austin Reaves to Memphis for Jaren Jackson Jr. He laid out the whole case, talked about roster construction, mentioned salary cap flexibility, and wrapped it all in fake concern about doing what's best for Austin. The backlash was immediate and brutal. Lakers fans were furious. Media members questioned the ethics of an agent publicly discussing another agent's client as a trade candidate. And most importantly, Austin Reeves' agent Reggie Berry flew across the country to confront Rich Paul face-to-face at a Lakers game.
First of all, if you watch the show, which you should, and you watch the full take, this was a hypothetical conversation we were having. If I was running a team, not this is what's going to happen, etc. Secondly, I believe it's very complimentary to AR because he's on a team with two future Hall of Famers and he happens to be the asset, right? So that's not a negative thing.
Unless you want to move Luka.
Now Rich Paul is scrambling to walk it all back, and the backtrack is one of the most transparent pieces of damage control you'll ever see. Here's what he said on his podcast after the confrontation. My man Reggie, who happens to be Austin's agent, we talked. This is my guy. I mean, I've known him for 20 years. And he said, I didn't watch your shows. Okay, so we talked about it, and I'm like, look, Reggie, you're my man. And I want Austin to know this is not about Austin Reaves because, one, I love the player, love the person, and two, I actually need him to help me with my golf game.
Probably not enough who commented on what you said actually watched the clip, even the full clip.
Right. Including my man Reg, who happens to be Austin's agent. We talked, this is my guy. I mean, I've known him for 20 years.
Let's break down how ridiculous this statement is. First, the whole I've known him for 20 years thing is classic deflection. You know who else Rich Paul has known for decades? LeBron James. And that relationship hasn't stopped him from operating in LeBron's best interests at all times, even when it means crossing ethical lines. Saying you've known someone for a long time doesn't make it okay to publicly discuss trading their client without permission.
This is not about Austin Reaves because, one, love the player, love the person, and two, I actually need him to help me with my golf game. So I'm not trying to mess up anything with AR.
Second, the golf game comment is pure passive-aggressive nonsense straight out of the LeBron James playbook. Make a joke, lighten the mood, pretend the whole thing was just a misunderstanding. Except it wasn't a misunderstanding. Rich Paul very clearly and deliberately suggested the Lakers should trade Austin Reaves. There was no ambiguity. There was no room for interpretation. He said the words, laid out the reasoning, and even called it an unemotional trade to make it sound like smart business rather than what it actually was, which was an attempt to push out a player who's in the way of LeBron's short-term goals. Third, this is not about Austin Reaves is such obvious BS.
And I want Austin to know, this is not about Austin Reaves.
Of course it's about Austin Reaves. His name is in the trade proposal. He's the player being discussed as expendable. You can't say something is not about someone when you're literally talking about trading them. That's like punching someone in the face and then claiming the punch wasn't about them. The whole backtrack reeks of desperation. Rich Paul didn't expect the level of backlash he received. He thought he could float the idea, influence public opinion, maybe plant a seed in the Lakers front office's mind, and move on without consequences. Instead, Austin Reaves' agent confronted him publicly. The Lakers organization reportedly wasn't happy about it, and now Rich Paul is trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube. But here's the problem. You can't unsay what you said.
There's a lot of people inside the agent industry and outside the NBA industry, outside the agent industry, but in the NBA, who believe Rich Paul nor any agent has any business doing a podcast.
The damage is done. Austin Reaves heard those comments. His agent heard those comments. Lakers management heard those comments. And everyone in the NBA knows what it means when Rich Paul suggests a roster move. It means LeBron James wants it to happen. Because Rich Paul doesn't operate independently from LeBron. He never has. Their relationship is the foundation of Klutch Sports' entire power structure.
So LeBron James' agent, Rich Paul, made headlines earlier this week when he suggested on his podcast that the Lakers trade Austin Reaves for Grizzlies All-Star Jaren Jackson Jr. But after last night's Lakers win, LeBron tried to distance himself from his agent's comments. James told ESPN in his way out of Crypto.com Arena this, quote, "I think you all know by now, Rich is his own man, and what Rich says is not a direct reflection of me and how I feel. And I hope people know that. I hope people know that, and if they're not sensible to know that, then I don't know what to tell them."
LeBron also tried to distance himself from Rich Paul's comments with a statement that was equally transparent. He said Rich is his own man, that they're both grown men who can say what they want, and that he has zero conversations about what Rich discusses on his podcast. Nobody believes that. Not even LeBron's most devoted fans believe that, because it defies basic logic and common sense. LeBron and Rich Paul talk constantly. They're best friends. They've been partners for decades. LeBron has his own podcast called Mind the Game, where he discusses basketball topics. You're telling me he doesn't discuss content with his best friend who also has a basketball podcast? You're telling me Rich Paul doesn't run major topics by LeBron before publicly discussing them, especially when those topics directly involve LeBron's team and teammates? That strains credibility to the breaking point. The pattern is clear. Just last month during the NBA Cup, Rich Paul said on his podcast that the Lakers weren't championship contenders. When reporters asked LeBron about it, he basically agreed while trying to make it sound like he wasn't agreeing. He said he couldn't think about playoff success in December, which is just a roundabout way of saying, yeah, we're not good enough. Their messaging aligns constantly, but we're supposed to believe this Austin Reaves situation is different? Please. What really happened is simple. Rich Paul spoke on behalf of LeBron's interests. It backfired publicly. Austin Reaves' agent wasn't having it and confronted him directly. The Lakers organization made it clear they didn't appreciate one of their star players being publicly shopped by an agent who doesn't even represent him. And now, both Rich Paul and LeBron are scrambling to do damage control because they realize how bad this looks. From Austin Reaves' perspective, this has to be incredibly difficult to process. You're playing great basketball. You're beloved by Lakers fans. You've proven you belong at this level. The organization values you. You want to stay long-term. And then your superstar teammate's agent goes on a podcast and suggests the team should trade you. How are you supposed to feel about that? How are you supposed to trust LeBron after this? J.J. Redick, the Lakers head coach, deserves credit for wrapping his arms around Austin Reaves during this mess. He publicly praised Reaves for staying engaged and ignoring the noise. That's important leadership from a first-year coach who's trying to establish a culture that isn't centered around LeBron's preferences and drama. Redick is signaling that Austin Reaves is valued, that the coaching staff has his back, and that outside noise doesn't dictate how the team operates. But the damage is still real. Austin Reaves now knows that LeBron's camp wants him gone. He knows that Rich Paul, one of the most powerful agents in basketball, publicly advocated for trading him. And he knows that LeBron's denial rings hollow because everyone in the league understands how their relationship works. That creates an uncomfortable dynamic in the locker room that won't just disappear because Rich Paul made a half-hearted apology wrapped in jokes about golf swings. The broader issue here is the toxicity that follows LeBron James. Kevin Durant said it years ago, "There's too much toxicity around LeBron, and nothing has changed." Throughout his entire career, LeBron has operated the same way. He influences roster decisions through back channels. He creates media narratives through proxies like Rich Paul. He demands control over team construction. And when things don't work out, he distances himself from responsibility while his associates take the heat. Over 180 different players have played with LeBron during his career, and many of them saw their careers negatively affected by the experience. That's not a coincidence, that's a pattern. When you play with LeBron, you're not a teammate in the traditional sense. You're either a supporting piece who fits his system, or you're expendable. Austin Reaves is learning this lesson in real time. The Lakers organization, particularly owner Jeannie Buss, seems to be moving away from the LeBron-centric model. They're trying to build around younger players like Luka Doncic and Austin Reaves. They're establishing a culture that isn't dependent on one player's preferences, and they're making it clear that the drama that comes with LeBron isn't worth it anymore. The franchise wants to return to what made them successful before LeBron arrived, which was stability, strong organizational structure, and a focus on team success rather than individual agendas. Luka Doncic is clearly the future of this franchise, and you can tell he's ready for the LeBron era to end. He's been professional about it publicly, but the body language and the way he's playing suggest he's ready to fully take the reins without sharing leadership with someone whose priorities don't align with the team's long-term goals. Once LeBron is gone, which could be as soon as this offseason, Luka can fully embrace his role as the face of the franchise without constantly navigating LeBron's preferences and drama. The most telling part of this entire situation is how quickly Rich Paul backtracked once he faced real consequences. He's used to saying whatever he wants without pushback. He's used to operating from a position of power where other agents and teams defer to him because of his relationship with LeBron. But Reggie Barry didn't defer. He confronted Rich Paul directly, in person, at center court where everyone could see it. And that public accountability forced Rich Paul to walk back his comments and pretend the whole thing was a misunderstanding. Max Kellerman tried to help Rich Paul on the podcast by suggesting it was his idea to discuss the Austin Reaves trade scenario. That's damage control from a media member who probably doesn't want to upset Rich Paul or LeBron. But it's also transparent and pathetic. Everyone knows Rich Paul was speaking his own mind, reflecting LeBron's preferences, and trying to shape the narrative around potential roster moves. Pretending otherwise insults people's intelligence. The comment section on these podcasts and videos has been brutal for Rich Paul and LeBron. Even their supporters are starting to see through the manipulation. People are calling out the passive-aggressive behavior, the constant drama, and the way LeBron operates through proxies while claiming he has nothing to do with it. The power that LeBron used to have over media narratives is clearly weakening. People are more willing to speak honestly about his behavior and the toxicity that follows him. If you're Austin Reaves, this experience has to make you reconsider everything. How do you look LeBron in the eye in the locker room after his agent publicly advocated for trading you? How do you trust that LeBron has your back when his closest associate was actively working to push you out? Even if Rich Paul's backtrack is sincere, which it obviously isn't, the initial comments revealed the truth about how LeBron's camp views Austin Reaves. He's expendable. He's in the way. And they want him gone so they can reshape the roster around LeBron's preferences one more time. The good news for Austin Reaves is that the Lakers organization seems committed to him despite what Rich Paul said. They're not trading him before the deadline. They're planning to re-sign him this summer to a significant contract. And most importantly, they're building their future around him and Luka rather than around LeBron. So while this situation was uncomfortable and difficult, it also clarified where Austin Reaves stands with the franchise that actually matters. Rich Paul's attempt to walk back his comments is one of the weakest damage control efforts in recent memory. He thought he could influence the conversation, got called out for it, And now he's pretending it was all a misunderstanding between old friends who just need to talk about golf swings. But the reality is that he crossed a line, got confronted by another agent who wasn't playing games, and now he's trying to save face while the entire NBA watches and takes notes. LeBron's era with the Lakers is ending, probably after this season. The franchise is ready to move on. The fans are ready to move on. And players like Luka Doncic and Austin Reaves are ready to build something without the constant drama and toxicity. Rich Paul's comments about trading Austin Reaves might end up being remembered as one of the final straws that made it clear LeBron's way of operating doesn't work in Los Angeles anymore. Rich Paul got caught, got confronted, and now he's backtracking like his career depends on it. Spoiler alert, it probably does. If you think Austin Reaves should demand a trade away from this mess, smash that like button. If you think he stays and thrives after LeBron leaves, hit subscribe. Either way, this Lakers drama is far from over, and we're covering every second of it.